This is the program that shows you the side of police chase videos they didn't want you to see. Bungled arrests, kamikaze crooks and cop-based carnage of all kinds. Welcome to Cops Uncut, the real car crash TV. Coming up on Cops Uncut. The cops turn up the heat on this desert rat. This drunk driver swaps a can of beer for a court appearance.
No, I don't want your beer. I just want your driver's license.
And this bozo does the electric boogaloo.
Taking off again.
It's time to put on your aviators, stock up on the Evasion and take a trip to where the streets have no name. Our roadrunner for the day is driving this modest-looking white sedan, while we're on board with Wile E. Coyote in a police cruiser. Yes, it's the middle of the desert where things are so hot you're probably better off trading in your car for a camel. In fact, don't be too surprised if John Wayne rides out from behind the nearest cactus looking for a saloon and somewhere to park his saddlebags. In a place like this, going to work in the morning is like going to the beach, only without the fun. There's no surfing, no volleyball, and no thongs. But there is a lot of sand. Sand on the road, sand in your shoes, and if you're not careful, sand in your carburetor. The sun beats down from dawn till dusk 365 days a year. So, with just a couple of Joshua trees for shelter, aircon is a must in any motor if you don't want to end up looking like an extra from Tenco. And this suspect must have his cooler turned up to 11 as he shoots past the early evening traffic, trying to keep some distance between himself and a fast-track ticket to the nearest sheriff's office. When you live in a very hot climate, the trick is to slow things down and take it easy. Don't expend any more energy than you absolutely have to. Because if you go herring round at 100 miles an hour, your afternoon is only going to end in tears. This Dust Bowl desperado must be suffering from sunstroke, because he wants to get where he's going by this time last week, even if it means being an amber gambler. When it comes to the crunch, the cop who's chasing him is happy to hold back, knowing that sooner or later his suspect is going to make an unforced error. He's left another trail of confusion at the next intersection. The closer we get, the clearer the story becomes. Our suspect's been bouncing around like a pinball, wrecking both ends of his car in the process. And although he can open his door, he hasn't got the strength to stand up and soon has a 12-stone trooper pinning him to the tarmac. This Mad Max of the Mojave set off on Operation Desert Storm, but his means of escape turned out to be a mirage. And now he's sweeping up the sand from the cracks in the prison yard. Still to come in part 1. This policeman gets mistaken for a barman.
No, I don't want your beer. I just want your driver's license.
And this kid falls for the old taser trick. Drunk test dummies. There you are, parked up on a quiet side road admiring the view, when who should come along to rudely interrupt your afternoon but this corpulent cop.
How you doing, sir?
Now he's asking questions, though it might be worth your while to try and come up with some answers.
How you doing today?
It might also be worth your while to try and stay awake.
You have a driver's license, sir?
If you're conscious enough to know that a policeman is asking for your driver's license, take heed, because he doesn't just want to laugh at the photo.
Hello? Hey. How you doing? You have a driver's license?
And whatever you do, try not to mistake him for the barman at your local boozer.
No, I don't want your beer. I just want your driver's license.
Because his sense of humour will only stretch so far, and he doesn't want to be treated like your personal beer butler.
Don't step out of the vehicle, sir.
Our drunk test dummy for today is having trouble telling the difference between a piece of plastic in his wallet and an aluminium can filled with fizzy alcohol, which doesn't exactly bode well for the rest of his afternoon.
Bottle of alcohol on the ground out there. It looks like somebody's urinated up front. I have odor alcohol out of the vehicle. And when I asked for your driver's license, you gave me your beer. Okay, so how many beers have you had today?
Once the wind has intervened, we don't get to hear his reply. But here's your chance to guess exactly how much this suspect has been drinking, because it's time for the field sobriety test to begin. Text beer to the first number if you think it's 10 cans, to the second number if you think it's 15, or the third number if you think it's 20 or more. First up is the pen test, for which the examinee is supposed to move his eyes but not his head. Next, it's the baby steps test, for which his hands are not supposed to be in the air. Finally, it's time to make like a flamingo and stand on one leg.
You know what, there's no way I would be able to do that. I couldn't even do that if I was sober. Well, I was doing it.
Looks like this pie-eyed perp has given up the ghost.
I'm placing you under arrest for DWI. Okay?
But when it dawns on him that he's about to be arrested, he suddenly gets his second wind.
Well, could you let me at least try that?
And decides that perhaps it is worth having a go after all.
If you want to try it, I'll let you. It would have to be somebody.
He's still lacking in confidence, though, and needs a detailed explanation of exactly what's required.
Okay, let me explain it one more time, just so we make sure you understand.
It's not a task that would cause too much trouble for any ordinary member of the public.
You're going to pick one foot up. You can choose which foot you want.
But when you've drunk enough beer to fill a swimming pool, getting your head around any sort of test can be tough.
See how I'm doing it? Sure. Okay, you're going to count from 1001.
You've got to admire this guy's perseverance, but now he really is in the last chance saloon.
Until I tell you to stop. Okay? You understand it? Okay, you may begin. 1001.
Ah, well, maybe next time. Now we're going to meet the perfect mismatch. A lawman who loves to give orders and a suspect who has a problem with authority. It's late one summer's night as this commanding cop pulls over a car full of youngsters, and he doesn't waste any time in telling them what to do.
Show me your hand! Show me your ball. Everyone in the car, put their hands up! Put your hands up, passenger! With your left hand, hold your right hand, shut the vehicle off! Drop the keys out the window!
So far, so good. But with a gun pointing straight at him, the driver starts to wonder what's in store.
Open the door from the outside! Roll your window down, open the door from the outside!
Roll down.
All right, open the door from the inside and keep your hands where I can see them!
This kid was expecting a speeding ticket and some stern advice, but now he's worried that as soon as he stands up, he'll be pumped full of lead, no questions asked.
Get out of the car now! You'd rather not? Get out of the car right now!
Talk back to this trooper, and you're only going to make him angrier. These two have got themselves caught in a vicious circle. Cop gives order, suspect disobeys order. Cop gives order in a louder voice, suspect gets scared and disobeys order again.
Get out of the car now!
We'll talk about it when you get out.
What, you think we're joking? Get out of the car now, keep your hands where I can see them!
Eventually though, and after a good deal of persuasion, the driver plucks up enough courage to leave the safety of his seat. He also plucks up enough courage to proclaim his innocence.
Turn around.
I didn't do anything
Turn
wrong.
around, face the aggression.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Which might not be such a good idea.
Okay, ready?
Oh,
Ready?
sorry.
He even manages to smash his own car window with his head.
Hand on the ground now.
I can't move.
Hands behind your back. Watch it.
I can't move.
Hands behind your back.
can't move.
Now.
And now he's been tasered, this negatively charged nonconformist couldn't obey orders even if he wanted to.
Left gun. Cut them up. Taking off again.
The driver of this car is on the run after being reported for spousal abuse. But whatever his domestic difficulties, he's not having too much trouble with his driving as he weaves his way through the rush hour traffic. The weather's fine and visibility is good, so there isn't much to slow him down. For the moment, this cop car is just trying to stay on his tail and make sure he doesn't try anything rash. The suspect moves towards the off-ramp, but luckily for the cops, it's a bluff. Because backup is just about to arrive in the shape of this squad car on the right. Now they've got some strength in numbers, it's time to ramp things up a little, and it isn't long before the extra manpower pays dividends. After another brush with the hard shoulder, this ice-skating suspect executes a perfect triple salco. Through luck rather than judgment, he finishes right side up and facing in the direction of the traffic. And although he jumps out, his haunted car still has a life of its own. The state police have been called to a domestic in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where Victor Leon Sr. has been rowing with Victor Leon Jr. As the father and his relatives look on, the son decides that it's time he made his excuses. But that's easier said than done when you're towing another 4x4 and there are two cop cars guarding your driveway. They certainly don't teach you how to make this sort of three-point turn when you're practicing for your test. As Leon tries to run him down, the policeman has no option but to defend himself. One of the bullets has hit its target, but Leon drives on anyway, minus his second vehicle and plus a gunshot wound to the chest. This deputy isn't wasting any time, and he's soon caught up with his suspect. But with a trailer still dragging along behind him, it's not going to be easy to close Leon down. Even as another cruiser crosses in front of him, he has time to check left and right before turning onto the main road. Fortunately, Leon has left his hazards on, just to make absolutely sure that no one comes anywhere near him. All of that noise and smoke coming from the trailer is also a pretty good deterrent. Although perhaps he's worried that one of his tyres has blown, because a little further up the road he pulls over. For one brief moment, the deputy thinks that his job is done, only to have his hopes dashed a second or two later as Leon changes his mind about surrendering and drives on. He's realised that his pickup is in one piece, and the more of a smokescreen he can throw up, the more difficult it's going to be for his pursuers to see what the hell is going on. In fact, as he flies off into the distance, he looks more like a member of the Red Arrows than a madman on the run. When these cops catch up, they might need to pull out their fire extinguishers before they reach for their .38s. If it's not smoke, it's dust, and as they approach some roadworks, Leon shows off his cornering skills with a slalom race through the traffic cones. And he doesn't even touch the sides. With his wounded trailer scraping its way along the tarmac, it's a good job there are some construction crews on hand to carry out repairs. But the road surface here is temporary, to say the least, and if the cops don't stay back, there's a danger they'll drive onto the trailer by accident and get towed away. As the juggernaut rolls on, this chase is turning into an epic, and Leon is getting more and more confident. He's even been given special treatment with the police, who are so worried about the damage he might do, they've cleared a path for him through the next intersection. To bring things to an end, they need to be more proactive, but this roadblock is a little too obvious. Leon sees the spike strip coming, swerving round it as if he was driving a Mini Cooper, and closely followed by what must now be a long line of cruisers. As it turns out, he's heading for the interstate, but being on a wide road ends up helping the cops. They can stop traffic by blocking the exits and get ahead of their suspect in order to slow him down. When they first set off, it was rather like running for cover from a rampaging elephant, but now it's more like herding sheep into a pen. Our Leon appears to be running out of ideas and options as he heads off the interstate and into the sleepy town of Kellogg, Idaho. In the end, the state police don't have to ram him off the road or take a pot shot at his tyres, because all of that excitement, not to mention the bullet wound he's still nursing, seems to have calmed him down a bit. A couple of miles further on, and after the best part of an hour on the run, Leon simply pulls over, turns off his engine, and sits in the driver's seat waiting to be busted.
Taking off again.
Still to come in part 2. These drunk drivers get down on the ground, and this cop pulls his felon from the flames. We all know how annoying some people can be, and if you're a traffic cop, there's nothing worse than a suspect who's been on the sauce. But you should learn to judge each case on its merits, and before you get too heavy-handed, try and assess just how dangerous your drink driver really is. Some people are aggressive and liable to lash out at any time, so you should be alert and keep your firearm at the ready. But at the other end of the spectrum, there are the friendly drunks who can't drive for toffee, but want everyone to be their best mate, even the cop who's about to arrest them. In his inebriated state, this driver has mistaken a guardrail for a side street. So what's the best way of handling the situation? You won't know what to expect at first, so start off with the assertive approach.
Driver, get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get down on the ground, man! Down on the ground!
The guy seems obedient enough, but what about his passenger?
Passenger, out of the car, slowly! Out of the car! All right, get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Are you injured? Are you injured? Driver,
Well, if they've just driven head-on into a crash barrier, they can't be feeling too perky. But despite all evidence to the contrary, this cop is treating them like America's most wanted. Shouting at someone from the other side of the road isn't the best way of showing concern for their welfare.
Yes, don't move. Ma'am, are you okay? All right, well, we got a squad coming for you.
In fact, it can make for pretty surreal small talk.
Ma'am? All right, what's your name? Demetria? Are you okay? All right. Did you hit your head?
And if someone has a head injury, then it might be an idea to get out the first aid kit, rather than sitting in your patrol car while they're lying on the road. So, time for a quick recap. When you meet a drunk driver, there's nothing wrong with being cautious.
Driver, get your hands up! Get your hands
But
up!
don't forget that as a cop, you're not just there to dish out the discipline. Sometimes you are allowed to help people too. Class dismissed. It's a summer night in the school holidays, and we've just latched on to a bored teenager. This kid has got nothing better to do than borrow his mum's car and put it through its paces, and having the law on hand to watch him is just an added bonus. Busy, well-lit roads aren't the best place for pulling stunts though. What he's looking for is somewhere off the beaten track. Then he can get to work burning some rubber and riling this cop. He starts off slowly enough with a screech of his tyres and a bumpy ride over a grass divider. Now, though, it's time to find out exactly what a Ford Explorer can do. Quite a bit, as it happens, although he doesn't appear to have it completely under control. The cop can't work out which direction to turn, but in the end, his juvenile joyrider does all the hard work for him. Time to swap his Bobby's helmet for a fireman's uniform. It's not often you have to talk someone out of a burning vehicle, but the trauma of the accident seems to have had a curious effect on this suspect, who's beginning to see the error of his ways. Overturning a car and nearly being burned alive is all he needed to put him on the straight and narrow. So perhaps the authorities could use this as a new form of corrective therapy.
We gotta go further, Larry.
This boy racer went from burning rubber on the road to burning the rest of his vehicle off it. But he had a change of heart and began to regret what he'd done just in time to plead guilty. So what have we learnt today on Cops Uncut? Don't make it too obvious that you've been drinking and driving.
I don't want your beer. I just want your driver's license.
You can't stand up to a stun gun. And if your suspect forgets to unhook his trailer, it could mean that he's unhinged. Be careful out there.